The first question to ask is this: what word or concept central to psychology and psychiatry is almost wholly missing from modern treatment methods? Ironically, it is psyche, which is the root of these words, if not of these practices. Modern psychological and psychiatric practice tends to split the person into behaviors, thoughts, and body chemistry. We are, of course, all of these things, but we are also something more, much more. If someone catalogued your behaviors, summarized your thought process, read your medical records, and said they were you would protest because you are more than the sum of those parts. Psyche is the Greek word for soul and reminds us that we are, finally, an animal that desires meaning and suffers its loss. Of course, we are a set of behavioral patterns, reflexive, unexamined thought processes and biological drives. Yet, limiting our approach to the merely observable features of life shows a failure of nerve, a reluctance to take on the larger non-quantifiable questions of meaning. Depth psychology is an effort to approach the whole person, to undertake dialogue with the essential mystery we all embody. One cannot undertake this deepened conversation without engaging the unconscious, that mysterious realm in which much is hidden from us, yet which continually spills over into our world. The problem with the unconscious is that it is unconscious. We cannot address it directly, but we can track, engage, and interpret its manifestations in our behavioral patterns, our thoughts, and the disorders of soul which manifest themselves in our bodies. Each of these offers an avenue of insight into our psyche, actively seeking healing, protesting oppression, and correcting our self-defeating choices. One of the key aspects of the psyche is psychopathology. While the natural desire of the conscious ego and ordinary treatment methods is to remove psychopathology as quickly as possible, depth psychology respects it. Instead, we ask the questions: why has it come to us? What does it want from us? What correctives to my course must I consider? When we recall that the etymology of psychopathology is the expression of the suffering of a soul, then we are obliged to consider the question of meaning. Thus, having received a set of instructions from my family or my culture on how to live my life, how to be successful, I do my best to meet those expectations. But perversely, the fulfillment of those goals may leave me flat, listless, even depressed. That autonomous withdrawal of energy and approval from some part of my soul is a summons for me to go back to the drawing board and reconfigure my life, my goals, my assumptions. Depth psychology is an effort to conduct dialogue with ourselves at a deeper level than ordinary ego consciousness and most treatment methods attempt to go. While I may find that the life, the choices, the values, the risks the soul asks of me are challenging, threatening to my security and predictability, the risk is worth taking because it leads to the experience of meaning. Depth psychology understands that the goal of life is not happiness, which is only transiently possible anyhow, but abiding and lasting meaning. Depth psychology is especially informed by the examination of our formative experiences. The purpose is not to dwell on the past, but to realize in what ways the past is still active within us, creating patterns, dictating diversions, diminishing freedom of choice. From childhood on, we begin reading the world in our attempt to adapt, fit in, avoid harm, manage anxiety, and have our needs met. We are making our uncertain way by asking, who are you? Who am I? What is the relationship between us? How am I to deal with this world? Am I acceptable as I am, or do I have to twist and contort myself into some other shape to receive your love? These framing experiences come to us as fate. We have no choice over our family origin, culture, or the incidents of our biographies. But as we read these events, deriving primitive, partial, and prejudicial interpretations of these experiences, we tend to continue serving them until other experiences give a different freeing message. So, the reading of our life patterns tells us much about the formative stories to which our lives have been in thrall, brings them to consciousness, and provides opportunities for larger, better stories to enhance our journeys. If we change only the behavior and ignore its charged presence in our unconscious, the early story will only migrate into a new venue, a different relationship, or a current dilemma. These emotion-charged stories or complexes are splinter personalities, fractal scripts, and physical presences. Until the core idea or perception which generates the self-defeating behaviors is made conscious, challenged, and worked with over time, our lives stay stuck and suffering persists. In addition to tracking symptoms to their revealing core, depth psychology especially respects that mysterious, autonomous process we call dreaming. Nature does not waste energy. Several times each night, whether we pay attention or not, the psyche creates a narrative reaction to what is happening in our lives and a view of it from a perspective larger than that of the ego. If we track these dramatized narratives over time, learn their language, we gain a vital source of wisdom not available to ordinary consciousness. If we knew that the timeless sagacity of nature was available to our troubled, sometimes beleaguered egos, would it not make sense to stop and pay attention once in a while? Over time, dialogue with the mysterious source which produces our dreams and expressive symptomatologies shifts some of our focus from outer distractions to a deeper center of authority. The first half of life is preoccupied with adaptation, fitting in, learning roles and expectations. These, often necessary, compromises with the world around us seem to offer protection, acceptance by others, and anxiety management. But over the years, they also become imprisoning structures, reflexive responses, and conditioned compliances. Accordingly, in the second half of one's life, the challenge is to recover personal authority. Regaining personal rather than acquired authority is difficult and becomes a life's work. So powerful and repetitive are the received instructions and scripts. Personal authority requires sifting through the immense traffic which courses through our minds every moment. Which voices direct me from my culture, which from my family of origin, and which arise from my soul? And then one is required to mobilize courage to act upon what is true. While that sounds simple in the abstract, in practice it is difficult because it requires us to move into less familiar regions of choice and consequence. Even when the old authorities are constrictive, they remain attractive because they have been so often enhanced through repetition. Stepping into a larger frame helps one move into a more authentic life, moving from the consequences of fate to the possibilities of destiny. Tilting that balance is the responsibility of consciousness and is the gift of depth psychology. Undertaking this dialogue with our own depths brings greater purpose, dignity, gravitas, and meaning in this journey we call our life.